Hello, my name is Nicholas, and today we're going to be talking about the death penalty and why it should be legal around the United States. While looking for stories for killers, for criminals in general, that have got away with their crime and proceeded to continue that crime even after their release, I found a man that caught my eye and made me wonder how he could have got away with such heinous crimes. John McCrae was 15 years old in 1950 when just an 8-year-old boy by the name of Joey Halsey went missing in Michigan. Not long after, his body was found mutilated from his throat to his genitals, and he was found near John McCrae's house, actually under the cement. After he was found, a homicide investigation began, and with a lot of evidence, they found John McCrae guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. After 20 years, he was deemed eligible to parole because of his age when he committed the crime and good behavior. He was released from prison in 1972, and later during the late 70s was also a prison guard. And for that, also through that time, throughout the 70s, there was three missing boys that were never found. And it was seen that John McCrae was also during that time moving to different states. With the last state he moved in was Arizona. In 1997, there was a skull found in his property, and it matched the DNA of one of the boys that went missing. He was arrested the next year with his son for the crime, and he was sentenced to life again without the death penalty. He was offered immunity to find the bodies, but he later said he had nothing to do with it and would not help the police, even though there's clear evidence of him being guilty and him admitting to what he did. And he would soon die not long after to bad health complications a few months later. And after that, according to Pew Research Center, it was last accessed in 2021. More Americans favor than oppose the death penalty. By 60% of U.S. adults favor the death penalty for people convicted of murder, including 27% who strongly favor it. About 4 in 10, 39% oppose the death penalty, with 15% strongly opposed. And today we're going to learn about why Congress must take action to legalize the death penalty nationally. We will look at the problem, the effects, and solution to it. The problem we have is the death penalty is not nationally legal. According to independent.co UK, currently only 27 states have death penalty legalized, with those states being Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. With those states, actually, recently, one state made it illegal, which was Alaska, very recently. And in 1972, Furman v. Georgia, seeing the death penalty was actually arbitrariness, and was also seen as a big downside because of racial discrimination towards it. And because of this, over 629 death sentences were then suspended, and existing statutes were no longer valid. But the states didn't fully agree with this, so many themselves kept the death penalty other than getting rid of it. Now that we know this is a huge problem, uh, but have you ever thought about the negative effects? The three negative effects is justice for victims, to keep the general population safe, to maintain prison population, and providing appropriate consequences for severe crimes. Many see it morally as a fair punishment to murder, but think of horrendous crimes you have heard, like rape combined with murder. Serial killers continue to kill and get a slap on the wrist. Many say it's because of lack of evidence of, but when these killers are let out and kill again, what happens to the families? Their lives are ruined and people they love taken as well. As I said before, 60% of America see it as both in favor and morally right. These prisons are way too overcrowded, according to prisonpolicy.org. Last access was in 2020. They had calculated that 41 states are currently operating 75% more of their actual capacity. with at least 9 of those state prison systems and the Federal Bureau of Prisons operating 100% more than what they operate at. Only one state, which is Maine, has a current population below 50% of their capacity. Prisons are full of many crimes, but somehow not accounted for with the severity of those crimes. To look back on the story I told about John McCrae, how he mutilated those boys' bodies and had no remorse to how it affected many and gave no closure to families, those boys wouldn't grow up while he had a family, a wife, a son, and a life as a prison guard. How will those families cope knowing this and knowing he had a life to live while those boys didn't have a chance? As you can see, these effects are important, and so now let's discuss the solution. The solution I came up with was that Congress must pass a law to legalize the death penalty nationally. Congress must come to pass a bill slash law to make the death penalty legalized throughout the United States and not just 27 states that currently have it legal. The bill will have to go through a governmental process to be success with the Senate and the House approving it, and as well as the president. The crimes will be put on trial for a death penalty is with the severity of the crime. For instance, John McCrae, who was confirmed to be a serial killer with a target of young boys, or another good but bad example, Ted Bundy as well, who indeed received the death penalty for his severe crimes against humanity. And coming to a conclusion, today we learned about why Congress must take action to legalize the death penalty nationally. We looked at the problems, effects, and solution. And remember, as I said before, more Americans favored the death penalty, with 60% of US adults favoring it. To think that even with the severity of John McCrae's crime, they still sought to give him immunity after the murders and another life sentence. He killed and admitted it with no remorse and did not have major consequences for what he did. He lived a comfortable life, even if he did go to prison for 20 years. Then he was released and became a prison guard, a husband, and a father. I asked this to you: what would those boys be if they had lived and if John McCrae was punished longer than those 20 years? Thank you for listening to my presentation.